Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So, what happens when youth stop being the target audience and start becoming the architects of culture, consumption, and leadership? Today on Off the Menu, we sit down with someone who has had a rather unconventional leadership journey. He's a brand builder who's had to unlearn global playbooks to build for Gen Z in India. Meet Dhruv Kohli, founder of Boba Bhai, a QSR brand redefining youth-centric dining. Welcome to the show, Dhruv.
Thanks, Minnie. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So let's dive right in. You talk about youth first leadership, right? When you hear that phrase of youth first leadership, what's your gut reaction? Do you think it's a buzzword, a movement, or a mandate?
It's a buzzword, right? I think today in a country like Z and millennials and all that stuff, and I would say next 50% of the companies are getting built by the youth. So I won't say it's a buzzword. I think now it is being a mandate. Of course, I guess as a youth, we have, while we may not have that much experience as, our seniors and all that stuff, but I think, with the knowledge, the technology we have, with the trends knowledge that we have, we've been the trendsetters. I think, a lot of youth is coming up and building the businesses for the upcoming generation. So I think it's here to
Right.
stay, and that's where all of us are trying to come in together and build and changing the unconventional way of going and working for someone, and whereas saying that no, we don't want to do that, let's go and build.
And truly succeeding, many of you succeeding in that as well. Yeah, I can speak for you, right?
100%. I think, we love to do experimentation. We are risk takers, right? And I think that's what is setting us apart. And, a lot of us are changing the way the things are getting done in an unconventional way. And of course, the success is there for a lot of us.
Right, right. So you've built brands that speak to the youth. So according to you, what's the difference between marketing to youth and being led by youth?
See, meaning like, I migrated to India about 2 years back and all that stuff, right? India has the highest amount of Gen Z and millennial population out of all the countries. Like we have approximately 50% of them and all that stuff. And what I've seen is that specifically in F&B space, because that's a space I operate in and I know about that space, still there is like, no innovation is happening. Everybody's just working on the same things before. So we thought we want to build something that youth is not only coming to eat the food there, it's a vibe, it's a culture. That's where we all started. So it was never started as a product. And we still don't treat it as a product. Product is very secondary for us. You are not coming to Wow High for drinking bubble tea or Korean food, right? You are literally coming for a vibe. And that vibe experience that translates into buying food. That's what
Right,
exactly what we are building.
right. So they're not just buying, but they're shaping it. Like, so youth consumption is evolving from just buying to shaping the whole culture, right?
Exactly. See, the thing here is that there's a days in the past, like, when we say that, in India, there's like roti, kapda, makan, like food, shelter, and, your clothes is a necessity and all that stuff. But I don't think that's a case anymore, right? People just don't eat food, especially talking about Gen Z and millennials. They don't eat food just to fill it up, right? Today they are eating food that's looking good. That's more nutritious for them. That's more like vibe for them that they can show off to their friends. Same thing goes with the fashion. And today it's very important for a brand to be, if they want to be successful, to be talking to that audience. So we just cannot talk to our audience if we are not, building the product according to them. And that just doesn't start the product itself, the taste and everything. It starts from get-go, like the way you shape your experience into your outlets, the way you shape your brand, the way you shape your packaging, the way you shape your messaging, and how you can be so quirky and, to your audience. So I think everything plays a part.
Right. So could you give me some examples from what you do as to how you have modified these things to fit in for the Gen Z?
Sure. So many, first of all, is our brand name, right? Boba Bhai. So like the thing here is that when we started this, right, boba is of course the bubble tea and all that stuff. But why we use the word bhai in it? Gen Z and millennials used to call the word bro, bhai, and all that stuff. That's very common between the Gen Z and millennials, right? So we didn't want to have the unconventional name that I'm ABC Cafe or I'm ABC Tea Shop and all that stuff. We don't want to have that. It is something that you can call your friends as. And we have a mascot that comes with a nice gold chain and all that stuff. So people can relate to it. Hey, you know what? I'm a part of this culture. I'm a part of this community and all that stuff. That's what we started it. And as a brand, we never sort of went in and said, let's go and, spend money on Instagram, money on social medias. We took very unconventional approach. We are going to music festivals. We are going to like events and all that stuff. That's where our audience was sitting in. I think there's been time where we were doing even every single music festival that was happening in the country, whether it was Ed Sheeran, Travis Scott, Lollapalooza, because that's where my audience is coming. They are in a vibe, and I have to get them when they are in a full experience mode.
Right. And even the logo, you've played around with the fonts and everything too. I think give it that very
Exactly. It,
different feel.
you face a lot of criticism as well, right? Like people think like, it's very different. Like a certain generation won't understand this. Then there's another generation that truly understands it. So the question is that how are you distincting your brand apart? But that's something you are very clear from day zero. You know what? Do you want to build for 100% of the audience, or do you have a target audience in the mind that you want to cater to? I think we are very clear from day zero. We are targeting Gen Z and millennials, and we want to stick with that. And you know what's the benefit now? I also see some non-Gen Zs and millennials coming to your outlet and having Korean street food and bubble tea. You know what? They want to be in that swag. They want to be in that experience that Gen Z is seeing, because they want to feel that vibe. Why this Gen Z is so cool? Why this Gen Z is feeling that vibe? How can I have that vibe? Right. But
Right.
whereas it won't be opposite, where like, if some other gen is going there, the Gen Z may not go there, right? So that's
Correct.
how I think we've been able to shape that thing apart, where people are coming in saying, I want to be the next Gen Z, because all of us want to be always youth, always want to be young, youth-centric and all that stuff. I think that's what we've been able to bring it on the table.
Right. In fact, I was about to ask you that do others other than Gen Z also come in you. That's very interesting because I can say for myself that yeah, sometimes you are in the mood to go to a place where, it's the Gen Z crowd that is going to be there and try out what they
Exactly.
have.
You
And
learn a lot in sitting in that
absolutely.
crowd.
Absolutely. And I would say today Gen Z is also about the buying power, right? They have the
Yes.
money to buy. So, I mean, so when you built the strategy you said of just targeting Gen Z, um, I'm guessing you don't have any regrets on that whatsoever.
I don't really see. The thing is that we are investing in the future. Today's Gen Z means tomorrow have more buying power. They're the ones who are going to get into workforce and all that stuff. And that's what exactly Southeast Asia does. If you see Southeast Asia start targeting these foods about 10 years ago, they target these Gen Zs, and now their consumption has blasted. Like there's a chains who are doing like few $1 billion in revenue because they started 10 years ago. And the people who started 10 years ago, they have more buying power now. In fact, they are feeding themselves and they're feeding their kids as well. Right. So
Right.
that's the same thing we are building on. Today, the market size may look small and all that stuff, but I can tell you in the upcoming years, in 4 or 5 years, the consumption power is going to increase. The eating out habit in India is going to increase. And this is a generation that's going to spend a lot of money. So it's a wake
Right.
up call for the brands like us, like, to go and invest in these people, because that's what the future of the food lies in them.
Right. Cool. Now, you've also had a lot of experience globally in working with brands. So, global QSRs and cloud kitchen models that you've worked with also often assume that scale equals success. So, what did you have to unlearn when building for Gen Zs in India?
See, the thing in India, right,
Mm.
whatever works in UK, US is truly opposite. You have shrink margins, people who don't want to spend that much. The biggest part is average order value. I'm sitting in the UK and doing a business, I'm making 35 pounds. An average order value equivalent to 3,500 rupees. In India, the average order value is like 300, 400 rupees. So you have to see that how do you manage all the expenses in that 300, 400 rupees? That's one particular thing. Second thing is an Indian customer is demanding, right?
Of
They
course.
want to demand things. They want
Mm.
to have more value for money things, but that's not the case overseas and all that stuff. And I would say the last thing that comes in India is that the way the consumption is happening, the delivery is booming in India. Like I was surprised by looking at it. Still in UK, US, like people prefer to go out and eat it and all that stuff. Two reasons behind it, because delivery is expensive. I can tell you from my experience, I was saying in UK, Australia, I'd never ordered from a delivery apps. I'm not going to pay $10 for a delivery and plus pay 30% extra off the menu price for a restaurant. So I used to go and grab my meal, right? But in India, that's not the case. You get our best friend Swiggy Zomato, you get a free delivery after 99 rupees. And then not only price is the equivalent part to the restaurants and all that stuff. So I think delivery culture is booming in India. And of course, I think the infra, the traffic and all that stuff, people don't want to go out from Monday to Friday. Saturday, Sunday is the only day where people are going out. So delivery is booming in India, whereas other countries, I think while they may have a bigger delivery numbers and all that stuff, right? It's just purely of the average or value. But I can tell you next 3 years, 4 years, India is going to overtake those numbers and be equivalent to China, the way delivery is going.
Okay, all right. Now, I've also seen that you believe in a lot of localization,
Yes.
for your products. So, What does true localization, according to you, look like when youth are your primary audience? Is it flavor? Is it the format? Or is it the philosophy by itself?
Sure. See, first of all, right, like while we serve bubble teas and Korean food, we didn't name it like some English name and all that stuff. We are a pure Indian name, right? Goa, right? That's the one thing. Your audience has to connect with it. Second thing is that flavors play a very important. See, while there are people who want to try bubble tea, while there are people who want to try Korean food and all that stuff, right? There's always a hiccup, right? Like, so you have to merge your local flavors with the sauces and all that stuff, local proteins, like, for example, if you talk about overseas, the protein is mostly about beef, lamb, and all that stuff, right? Whereas we don't serve beef and lamb in India and pork, right? We primarily restricted ourselves to veg and chicken. So you have to experiment with the various proteins, like whether it's paneer, whether it is, chicken and all that stuff. You have to experiment with it. And that I think is a very important part of learning. In India as a country changes every 5-6 kilometers. And
Mm,
I know people say India changes state by state. I don't agree with that. Sitting in Bangalore, I can tell you the preferences of people sitting in Rajaji Nagar versus JP Nagar is truly different.
really?
You have to really study that audience, right? What is selling in there? Because Bangalore is a city where a lot of migrants come. So people are coming from north, south, west, east, everywhere. So everyone's taste palette is different, right? And especially in our metro cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore and all that stuff. So you have to ensure that what is serving to those people, does it resonate with their taste and all that stuff. So you really have to study this. But that doesn't mean you change your flavors or you change your menu. We don't change our menu. But what we do is that it's all about what is visible to customers, what he wants to buy, where in JP Nagar, if he's coming, this is what's the most preference thing to buy. And I think that's where we're starting our digitization journey, right? How we can get that all this customer data and ensure that the customer is a king here.
Okay, all right. So you talked about the name earlier, right? Now, I'm wondering, when you started this, did you also think about expanding geographically to other countries and all? And if so, what was the thing about, how did you feel about carrying a name which is very Indian, so to speak?
Exactly. So see, we need two things, right? Normally we have seen in India, the brands normally do different sort of integration, right? Like, they normally open another brand and all that stuff. That's what most of brands have done, right? Like some Remedy and all that stuff. We have a very different target, right? We don't want to become a cloud kitchen company. Something was very clear from day zero. Cloud kitchen is part of the business, but not want to become that. We're a full-fledged D2C consumer brand that has a multiple touch points, whether it's a cloud kitchen delivery, physical stores, or availability or Q-com, like Zepto, Instagram. I think the mindset is very clear from day zero that we want to build a brand, a global brand, right? That can be, across the world and all that stuff. So my thing is there is very simple, right? Like, we see Chinese chains going into US, UK with the Chinese names. We see Philippine chains going into different parts of the world with the Philippine names. So why not India? I think as Indians, we have
Absolutely.
earned incredible respect in the globe. So that people have to see that, because then when people read about name, today we read McDonald's, we read Subway, we read Pizza Hut, we know it's an American brand. So same way when people will talk about why they should know it's an Indian brand that is global. So I think that's very important. The country that has given us, the country has to be highlighted. So on purpose, we want to go with the same name. So people should know, because as a country, we are known for the hospitality. As a country, we are known for serving the best food. I think this has to come in the part, right? Today, a lot of world is controlled by American chains, right? And a lot of Chinese chains. I think it's part for Indian chains to go out and showcase. So if Chinese chains are not changing their name, so why should Indian change their name? And it's part for us to show the world that Indian chains are here to stay, and Indian chains are going to serve the best food to you possible.
No, that's amazing. That's a great outlook, and I have seen some other brands like Sharif Bhai and all also following the following that concept and that thinking, and I think that's amazing because, like you rightly said, it is important for us to be able to, for the Indian brands to showcase what they have through the name as well. Great. So, if I may ask you to think back, what's the one moment where you realized that Gen Z was just not just your customer, but they were your co-creators?
I think, honestly speaking, when we start doing the music festivals, like that's the first sort of thing I have seen that, I was thinking that, you can target Gen Zs on social media and all that stuff. But when I saw them in the, music festival, I see them snapping the photo before drinking it, posting on Instagram. I think this is the vibe. This is the audience I want. That they are my regular customers. They're the ones who are spreading the word for me. So let's get. So I think that's where the whole game changed for us.
Right. So social media, of course, is also continues, I'm sure, continues to be a medium that you use to reach
Exactly,
to the
Vinay.
Gen Z. Yeah?
See, social media is a great medium and we still use Instagram and all that stuff, but there's a lot of noise as well, right? But you want to get this Gen Z in a setting where there's no noise, right? Because they want to create themselves a noise. So how do you get them into a setting, right? Like how do you make them your loyal customers? I think it's a try before I buy behavior sort of thing, right? Like, they come to events, they're in a fun, jolly mood, they are willing to try everything possible. That's where you target them and that's where you build it.
Right. And I mean, I must say commendable that within 2 years you have built, across what 19 cities and things like that. That's amazing. So that means that the strategy that you're using is clearly working. So lovely. Now, one last question. If you were advising a global brand that's entering India today, what's the first thing you tell them to forget?
Forget what works in outside India and exactly do the homework from scratch, because whatever working is outside India is not going to work. And I've seen multiple brands coming with the same strategy entering into India and literally fail because it's a market which is very different. And if you do not localize yourself, do not hire local talent, you do not do things in a local way, you are never going to survive in this market.
Yeah. And like you said, India is such a huge country with so many uh, changes, like you said, at every 5 kilometers. And if that is not considered, I mean, not just the taste factor, but all the different aspects that India holds, that probably does not make sense, right? So,
Exactly.
uh, any last words that you want to say to the other entrepreneurs who are trying to build local brands here in India?
See, I one thing I always say is that India's best has yet to come. The eating out culture in India is just getting started. So, to my fellow entrepreneurs, I can literally say that people who say the opportunity is not big in India, I know that this is just getting started and this is just going to be up and up. And we have seen this every year it is growing. It is just going to grow. So keep your head down, keep building. One day it's going to come where we're going to rule everything possible. And the other thing is that I think we need to have more homegrown brands as opposed to relying on the international brands. I still think India's QSR scene is ruled by international brands, but that time has to change. India has to be governed by the household brands, a brands that is being originated in India, made for India, but made from India for the world. That's what we need to do.
Wonderful. I love the energy, the enthusiasm, and the passion that I see in you, Dhruv.
Thanks,
Thank
Vinay.
you so much for that and wish you the very best to make this brand global and spread as fast as you can and grow. So
Thanks a lot.
thank you so much for coming on the show, Dhruv. And to the audience, like what Dhruv has reminded us that building for Gen Z means letting go of control, embracing co-authorship, and showing up where culture is actually made. This was off the menu where the future of food, brand, and leadership gets served raw. So thank you, everyone. Until next time.